Welcome, everyone. Happy Thursday. Hope your day is more bright than here in the East Coast. So we have a bit of rain. So today we're not here to talk about networking the way you've been told. Most applicants are told network. I hear this so many times, but very few are taught how to turn a conversation into an actionable, admission leverage. You're about to learn the mindset shift that top 1% of applicants make, the one that are extremely successful in their application journey. And it's important to remember that conversations are not just about small talk. They are about building real advantage in your candidacy, especially when you're speaking with people that you are getting to know. So let's dive right in. So research is expected in your application process. So no one can really avoid this if you want to build a strong application. This is not college. You are not going to be making a decision on which school you're going to say yes to and do all your research after you've been admitted. The reality is that if you don't do research, you just won't get in. And that's obviously, it's not the best use of your time to do that. Schools assume, therefore, that you've read the website, attended at least an information session. But so research is essentially table stakes. It's elementary. What differentiates top applicants is how they take that baseline information and deepen it through personal strategic conversations. Dialogue. They make essentially dialogue that uncovers nuances. That nuance can be the real culture, the unspoken expectations, the program-specific insights that you can't really find online. This is what comes through in the real conversations with real people. And this information that you gather allows you to integrate it authentically into your application. And that is your goal of networking. It's not just to have conversations and chat. It's really about leveraging that information strategically into your application so that you can become a part of that culture and by getting into the program, right? So that means that top applicants treat every conversation as an information gathering mission. They don't just ask, what's your favorite class? They probe into why certain experiences were transformative. They map what they learn into their essays once they gather this information. And I'm going to talk more about what does that look like and how you do that. They map this information into their interviews and positioning of their experiences. They reference conversations strategically without name dropping. And I know you hear this a lot of times, like just mention a bunch of names that you know. That's really not strategic. That's brown nosing, essentially. We don't want to do that. You want to be authentic. You want to showcase that you are someone authentic. And the way you do that is by integrating the meaningful conversations, the nuances that certain people gave you. That doesn't mean that you totally leave out the information that you gathered from other people just because you didn't mention their name. What this allows you to do is to present a multi-layered understanding of the school in the application. And that is what a layer of what makes you stand out in the application. Even strong applicants sometimes sabotage themselves by treating outreach as a task, a box to be checked. They ask surface level questions, don't dive into conversations, and fail to integrate the insight that they gained into what does this mean essentially for your journey in this MBA program. And worse, they sometimes think just mentioning a conversation is sufficient enough. If you say, I spoke to, Jane Doe, and I learned so many great things about the school, and just leave it at that, that's not really saying anything. It just means you used, I don't know, the 20 words that I just mentioned, and wasted those, honestly, 20 words because they didn't add any value, right? Admissions as such, then admissions can really tell when there's no substance behind a conversation. They're trained professionals. They read thousands and multi-thousand applications every single year. So it's important for you to remember what outreach does for your application. So effective outreach isn't about volume, although you do have to have enough data points to be able to make, just like when you do research, to make a concrete assessment of what is actually happening on campus at those different given schools that you're targeting. You need several data points to be able to make certain claims. And to do that, you are obviously going to have multiple conversations and then analyze those insights into integrating deep and depth into your applications in terms of how you align your past with the future and the community you want to be a part of. So your job as you go through this process is to move from a passive networker where you're just listening and collecting facts to active strategic conversation builder, where you're going to focus on uncovering how the program will specifically help you grow based on your goals. If you follow my channel, and if you don't, you should just follow us on YouTube and any other channel that you're watching us from. You hear me talk about goals as the baseline of everything. And this is where you also see the goals playing a huge role. Because the questions that you're asking are directly, authentically yours in terms of what you want to gain out of the business school and the experience. What you're going to do then with that information is you're going to feed those insights into how you position yourself into your application. So Jane Doe told me that this school is specifically strong in networking or is very strong in partnership with this particular company that I'm looking to work with. And the projects you work on is related to X, Y, and Z, right? You're really going to be specific. So the best applications, right, feel like a seamless conversation between you and the program because they're grounded on real dialogue between the different stakeholders in that institution and in that program. So, as you can tell by now, that choosing who to speak, the process of like the networking isn't just randomly talking to anyone. It's really choosing who you speak to. You want to start with current students, and they can offer you an authentic perspective on the program as it stands today, right? If you talk to someone who graduated from that school 20 years ago, that information that they give you may be irrelevant because the program and a lot of things have changed since 20 years ago, right? But the students today can give you insights into the culture, the coursework intensity, the extracurriculars, the projects that they work on. But your job is not just to talk to any student. Like you may have a friend who's at the program. That friend is doing something different than you or has different goals than you. That's not a relevant conversation. You can obviously have the conversation, but it's not going to give you insights that you're looking for. You want to prioritize students with similar backgrounds or career goals to you so that they can give you real tangible data for you to use. Alumni are invaluable for understanding the longer-term impact an MBA is going to have in your career. How did the program prepare them for their post-MBA career? What do they wish they have done differently now that they are out for however many years from the program in terms of, if they could redo the whole experience once over, what would that look like? And it's not about, would you have chosen the same school again? No. The question is, choosing the same school, what would you have done differently at that school? Because obviously they know anecdotes of other people's experiences. They haven't experienced any other school, right? So just keep that information in mind. And then admissions officers are really powerful But you also have to be strategic in terms of the conversations you have with them. You're not asking them to repeat what's on the website. That's actually the way you kill an application. You're showing that you've done your homework. You're showing prepared. But you're asking thoughtful questions, value-driven questions. And every touch point with admission either strengthens or weakens your brand, because believe it or not, yes, you may be part of a 10,000 list of people they speak to. If you can make a good impression, they will remember you when they read your application. So they either gonna your conversations with admission team is either going to strengthen or weaken your brand. And know that there's no neutral, right? There's no neutral. And why would you want to have a neutral conversation? It's a waste of time, essentially. Okay, now you have to remember that strategic outreach is not when you are in front of X person that you want to talk to. It starts before the conversation. You want to research deeply, know the courses that you're interested, the initiatives you want to be involved in, the clubs that make moves in helping you get to where you want to go. So you then so you have understood that, you understand what they offer based on what's on the website. Then you're going to add questions that add depth, and they're not really surface level curiosities. Prepare questions that uncover value alignment. So how has the program shaped their leadership, especially if you're talking with students? What surprised them about the culture? How did they grow the most, or in what way did they grow the most in the program? Your job in the conversation is to listen actively, mirror their language when you where appropriate, of course, and if it aligns with you, because this is going to help you in your writing itself. And after the conversation, send meaningful thank you emails or thank you notes or text message or however you communicated with them that reflects something specific that you discussed, that makes the conversation and makes them feel like their time was well spent in helping you through this journey. Most importantly, build a personal library of insights that you've gathered from these different conversations. And trust me, you're going to have a lot of conversations. You're going to speak to, about 5 to 6 people per school. And if you're applying to 6 schools, you're going to have a lot of conversations, and the information may start to kind of blend across schools. So your job is to really be building a library strategically and excuse me, very organized. You want to treat every conversation as a matter, as material for your application, right? And if you do this right, when it's time to write your applications, your essays, your resume, all pieces of the journey, then you'll really have a powerful bank of authentic school-specific content that you can draw on to really build that story seamlessly. It will make your job in terms of writing much, much easier. So I'm going to give you a real example of a client who we're going to call James for the purposes of this. That's not the person's real name, but we're just going to call him James just to make it more personal. So when James first came to me, he had already started the process of speaking with the admission team. So we all know networking, right? Everyone talks, you should network, right? But when I dug into how those conversations were going, a major issue showed up in the process of me evaluating that. And that is the admission officers weren't really impressed by the questions he was asking. And it was helpful for me because a lot of these conversations happened virtually, meaning through email, and I saw the sort of like the chain of conversations. The client was asking a lot of questions, but the questions framed them as someone looking to be told what to do instead of someone already prepared, reflective, and capable of thriving in the program. They appeared more passive and less proactive, even though they were proactive in terms of reaching out to the school. So we took a time out. We completely recalibrated the strategy on networking. So I coached James to lead with insight, to ask questions that reveal depth of thinking and to show that they belonged in the program. The actual turnaround was quite dramatic. They were invited to visit campus before they even submitted their application. And ultimately, they actually had a bit of a sort of panic moment before even submitting an application, because they only applied to MIT Sloan because that was their dream school. And, you know, by hitting that submit, it becomes real. What if I'm rejected after putting all of this effort and being vulnerable in this process? After convincing him that he was ready for this, I'm glad that we did, because he was admitted to his dream school. In terms of, you know, obviously he was able to attend the program. He attended the program and graduated with quite a lot of success while at MIT and beyond. And why I share this is that it's important to remember that the admission teams are really cultivating a class of people that they want to see there. If you are presenting yourself as someone who needs hand-holding, well, to be honest, you are in graduate school. You're not at the stage where you need to be handheld. So you want to present yourself as someone who is going to be prepared, because that's how you're going to show up on campus. That's how you're going to show up in front of employers. So the important thing here to remember is that the strategic conversations really made a difference in James's application process, but it will in yours as well. And you really want to take the time to build that thoughtful list of questions before reaching out to anyone. So your immediate next step are going to be, first, you're going to audit your current outreach and be brutally honest. At this point, I am one who believes in delusion, but you have to be grounded in reality. Be brutally honest in terms of where you stand, because that's the only way you can course correct. Are you engaging strategically or just passively chatting? And you know what to do if you are passively chatting. Second, you're going to map out key stakeholders you still need to engage for each school. Target a balance of students, alumni, and admission teams. So you're going to have, you know, admission team can be one person if possible. Not all schools offer that possibility. So if you are target, this is obviously school dependent. And then for students and alumni, you're going to have 2 to 3 conversations per category of you know, stakeholder. And then obviously you can do that for every school that you're applying to. And that's why you also limit the number of schools you apply to, because you can't do this times 20. And then third, you're going to create a personal outreach tracker. Track who you spoke to, what insights you gained, and how you can use that information strategically in your application, but more importantly, just in getting to your goals that you have set out. And finally, set a goal. Turn every conversation into positioning asset. If you really commit to this discipline, you are not just going to network, and irrespective of you attending a particular school or not, the network ends up being small, and you can build a network beyond the school that you are attending. What you will build is real leverage in terms of your application, and that leverage is what gets you into a top-ranked business school, right? It's what allows you to be authentic in your applications. So as you can see, admissions isn't about the most polished resume, the most polished essay, those great letters of recommendation. Of course, each one of those has a place, has a seat in the entire application process, but it's about really gathering the right information so that you can put together, you know, those strong essays, the resume, the letters of recommendation, and all of those different pieces that align with a most authentic applicant, right? Use the conversation not just to impress, and you do have to impress a little bit. That's really important, because the quality of your questions determine how engaged the person is going to be. But you are going to have these conversations to refine your fit, sharpen your message in terms of your application. And obviously, all of this is going to help you really build that admission advantage. So we're going to open the floor for questions. Write your questions in whichever platform you're joining us from. I won't share the questions online, so don't worry about privacy. After this will be on our YouTube channel as a replay, so you can always come back and watch this again. We will. So that's for this presentation. I will be joining GMAT Club next week on the 20th at 11. So we're going to talk about the steps, the things you need to be doing now to, really make sure that you put together a strong application. So that's happening on the 20th. And then next week on our usual program, we're going to work or talk about the application breakdown. So the essays, resumes, recommendation letters. This is going to be, of course, because we're covering a lot of topic and we only have 30 minutes, is going to be a little bit more higher level conversations. But we're always talking through in alignment with where you should be in your application journey as well. And of course, if you want to have a conversation with us, how we can support your application for this upcoming application cycle, feel free to reach out. Consultations are no obligation. It is an opportunity for us to assess both sides, if we're a good fit, if we provide what you're looking for, and we can support you along the way. So I'm going to stop sharing screens. And we're going to move to questions. So let's see what we have. All right, let's go with questions that came through the registration. So the question is, what are some examples of questions that high achieving applicants ask? So some of those questions, I think let's look at some questions you shouldn't ask first and foremost. So some questions you shouldn't be asking is, what's your favorite class at Wharton, Harvard, whatever, school that you're applying to, or what GMAT score got you in? That, and I know, trust me, I know insecurities come into this, into the process of your application, but it's not the place for you to showcase your insecurity in a conversation with someone. You want to really be presenting yourself as already a leader, or having the potential to be a leader, and you're thinking like a leader, right? So a question that you can ask then, it's going to be something like, how do you think Wharton uniquely prepared you for your energy, a PM role in the energy sector? Like, you want to be really, really specific to your goals and to the school. You want to have concrete data points that you can leverage. And then, of course, it's not just, I'm going to prepare a giant list of questions and then just go through the list. We're not robots here. We are human and we are curious, and you can move the conversation from there, but it has to be anchored on real data that you can use and leverage. That can be like a class that they have taken and how that helped this person get to their goals. It can be about a project that they worked on and how that project helped this person get to their goals, get to in front of the employers that they wanted to be. But you really want specifics, right? That's important. Next question. And just write your questions that you have in the chat of whichever platform you're joining us from. I'll be monitoring that here. Okay, so I often receive a generic advice from alumni that isn't particularly useful. How do you steer the conversation towards more actionable insight? This is actually one of the signs that tells me that you haven't asked the right questions. You haven't showed up to the conversation prepared. In order for you to have the conversation and get real specific details, is that you are in charge. You have to ask the really specific questions. It's not, this is about just being real in terms of the conversations. The alumni are there to be support, but they're not there to do the job for you. Like, it's your job to show up prepared, ask the right questions in order for them to give you the right answers. How do I assess whether my current outreach strategy is effective in positioning me as a compelling candidate for my target schools? This is somewhat similar to the previous question. So is the information that you're gathering helping you, or are you showing up just to show face? If it's the latter, you're not doing it correctly. If it's the former, then you're going to assess, okay, even if the school essay questions haven't been released yet, and we have Columbia released yesterday as well, so applications are coming through. But you can look at last year's questions and say, okay, these are these questions may be part of that next year's application essay questions as well. Did the information that I gathered from these students does it give me enough data points for me to be able to answer this question with specific evidence that this is why Columbia, for example, is the right school for me? If the answer is yes, then you are in the right direction. If the answer is no, then you need to reassess again. You need to prepare more questions that will help you get the insights that you need to answer those questions. I'm targeting multiple top MBA programs. How can I avoid sounding like a serial networker and maintain authenticity in each conversation? This is about, honestly, I know I'm going to sound now like a broken record, but it's all about how you show up. If you show up as a serial networker, what that means is that you're just there to chat. You're not there to actually gather intel. And to be honest, if you are talking to high performers, they're going to start getting annoyed with those kinds of conversations because, high performers undervalue time, right? And if you're there to just talk, that means you are wasting their time. So you definitely don't want to show up as a serial networker. You want to show up as someone who is strategic, has really intelligent, thoughtful questions, does the work that they're supposed to do, right? Because even if you look at it from their perspective, they're looking at you as someone who is going to potentially be a partner in their project. And if you show up unprepared, they're going to start thinking, oh, well, is this person going to show up unprepared to our project homework and we will be doing the work for them? Like, that's not the kind of personality we want in the high-performing Wharton, project-based, program. So, think about how you want to show up and then, present yourself as such. Hello. I see some highs in the chat. Okay, last question. We're running out of time. So I have a strong resume, but limited leadership experience. How can I use strategic conversation to highlight my potential impact in an MBA program? At this point, this is not about the resume. It's not where you can. Okay, so the way you use conversations to help you with your resume is to understand if the school is going to give you the tools that you need. What are the tools that you need for the role that you want to have? They're not going to give you any intel for you to write a strong resume, right? Your job then is to reflect on that experience and say, okay, if these are the things that I need for my job, this is my experience today, where can I showcase transferable skills, right? How can I showcase transferable skills? So this is a reflection on your part. It's not something that anyone in business school that's already there is going to be able to give you insights on how to do it. So again, reflection is really important. Definitely encourage, if you are, in this space, to have conversations with coaches, because they can help you uncover. Like, that's one of the things that we do when we work with candidates here at SIA, is that we really uncover the past experiences that they have and help them really understand how those can be looked at sometimes differently, because we are, when we do our work, we're constantly, we are facing it every single day, and sometimes you miss out, great experiences just because you may not consider it to be so great, but someone else does, right? So working with an experienced coach can really be helpful with that, and I encourage you to reach out. Wonderful. So hopefully this was a productive session for you, productive use of your time. If you found this helpful, please give this a thumbs up in whichever platform you're joining us. That tells us that we are going in the right direction. Ask any questions that you may have. We will be monitoring this video for the next week and answer questions in the chat if you watch, after the live is over. Thank you again for being here, and I look forward to seeing you or seeing your number on our future events.